Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Glenda Dawson. This is LD. We're from Glenda's Dragon's Den. And you can find us every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern at the Glenda's Magical Creations channel on the Conscious Awakening Network. We are located on Roku TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a few other streaming platforms such as YouTube, Spotify, Facebook. Um, so you could basically find us. And if you missed the shows will be in those platforms so you can watch us later. So tonight we have a phenomenal, wonderful, the very well known Madam X. She is a European American high priestess, a teacher, a writer, and just so much more that I'm just going to let her tell us, everyone, what she's all about. Madam X, how are you today?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for being had.
Oh no, that doesn't sound very good.
Well, it all depends, it's all perspective. But we've actually met in person.
Right.
Yes,
So,
yes, we have.
It's really nice to have you here on our show. And
Well, I really admire what you're doing. Your guests are fantastic and very broadening for the consciousness to hear to the different perspectives and their different internal purposes, their awakening, their journeys. It's been fantastic. So thank you.
Oh, thank you for being part of it.
Well, we met you at your venue in Jersey City.
No, Newark.
Newark.
That's correct. In Newark.
That's because I'm not a Jersey girl.
I am.
Thank you. Yes. I mean, it's right by the arena there, so anyone who knows Jersey, which I do not, would know it's Newark. But your venue in Newark, what is it you want people to know about you, your venue? How do you want to be understood or perceived?
The Iron Garden is town green for different individuals to join, participate, share their art, their passion. It is primarily a vampire court offering pagan programming with a focus on performance art and self-expression. We feature authors. We have book signings. We try to have a featured book every month. And we also feature visual artists as well as artisans, different types of merchants. We have spiritual advisors that can offer a variety of readings, whether it's psychic readings or healing or massage or tarot, palmistry, etc. And we also have teachers who come in and talk to us. We generally begin the night with what we call a conclave, which is really a group discussion where everyone shares a little bit about different topics. And then we continue the evening with a presenter. And generally that's usually a teacher from the community who comes to meet us and invite us to get to know them. And then at the end of the night, what we do is we have a ceremony, a magical demonstration, or some kind of a spiritually inspired performance art piece. But we also have other things. We, from time to time, we may have a live band. We have art auctions. We also do community charity work. Sometimes it's a human charity. Other times it's an animal charity. So it really depends what the group wants to do.
Well, you actually had Glenda as a keynote speaker for one of these events. Am I right?
Mhm. That's
And
correct.
what did you speak on, Glenda?
That was a while back.
No, you put me on the spot here.
Right. I know that you were doing
I-
readings as well. So
yes,
I
I was
know that.
doing readings as
Yes.
well, and angelics. Yes, I was speaking about a perspective on angelics that everyone thinks it's just one way, but it could be many different things. So
Absolutely. And I really appreciate your perspective that night because um, I like to broaden horizons. And sometimes I think when people say, well, it's A, this is the way it is, and there's no other avenues, no other options. So after speaking with you on the topic, I realized that you are going to express a more open approach to it. So I thought that was fantastic.
Well,
And that's what we try to do with the Iron Garden, is open it up to different perspectives and different viewpoints.
and we all are looking to coexist together, are we not?
right.
Absolutely.
So there was a certain point at which we were escorted out. I presume that's when the ritual and the demonstrations took place. Am I recalling that correctly? There's a certain time at which it's a members only club.
No, not at all.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Well, once again,
Yeah.
At 11 o'clock, at 11 o'clock, our private section becomes public.
Right.
So we generally clear the tables and chairs, and it opens up to a dance floor. So
okay.
perhaps that's what you were referring to.
Right. Right.
Okay.
No, it's the contrary. It's no longer a private space for just the Iron Garden, but it becomes a more public space for everyone who wants to come and dance to 80s alternative music.
And therein lies my confusion. So we were basically being cleared out for the dance floor.
That's correct.
Great. Well, I'm glad that we came to that understanding. So with
We don't ask anyone to leave per se. We just ask to leave that room. The venue QXT's is a fantastic venue. Has a huge ground floor dance floor and a huge bar upstairs. And then when you go down to the basement where we have our more private gathering, we have 2 rooms and a hallway, so that we can offer a variety of different things in the different rooms. And that works out very nicely. But the one room where we actually have the presentations and we have the tables and the altar, the microphone with the lectern, that we need to break down at a certain time so that it opens up into a dance floor. So we don't kick anybody out per se. We just say you have to leave the room so we can fix it up.
Right.
That's all.
Now, broadening perspectives, what is it you would like people to understand about vampires and the Iron Garden that perhaps they may have a misconception of?
Well, we do have a website. It's irongarden.org. And I think we give a pretty clear idea of what our purpose is. And basically, we are a New Jersey-based volunteer-run organization. And we welcome individuals that are parts of covens and houses, dens, guilds, and solitaire practitioners who may identify as independents or Ronin. And everyone in the community, regardless if they're pagan or vampires or witches or Therians or other kin, or even just artists and poets and scholars, they're welcome to come and join us. We like to call ourselves the beautiful creatures of the night because it's a nightclub, right?
Mhm.
And if you're talking about, pagans and lovers of the night, worshippers of the moon, and maybe even occultists, we kind of like the Bram Stoker's terminology of the beautiful creatures of the night.
And you even welcome people to come in dress.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We're a safe haven and neutral ground for fun and pleasure and entertainment and creative expression. So we encourage people to dress up. And
Mhm.
because we are a thematic event, so we always have a little underlying theme, we encourage people to dress up. A lot of us are into costuming. And so it adds to the atmosphere if you dress up. Whether you come with your witch's hat or with your elven ears or, dressed as a vampire with the fangs and the contacts, it's all fun and great. I think it's terrific.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I personally have loved when I was there, the few times I was there, or we were there, and I saw everybody free to do that,
Right.
because it's very hard to be in a place where you're dressed one way and everybody else is dressed completely different. So
Right. And I'd have to say that everyone does dress pretty different at the Iron Garden,
mhm.
but we encourage creativity in all aspects. So I'm sure that when you were there for the angelics, I'm sure you saw a few halos and some wings,
Yes,
right?
yes, I
Uh, and
did.
that's fun and beautiful, and we encourage that.
Right.
And I think it's great that in a society that seems to try and be pushing in one direction, you have a venue where people are comfortable to be accepted as they are and as they choose to present themselves.
Exactly, exactly. And I've been part of the vampire community since the late 80s, right? Before then, it was just a pagan community, right? There was no real differentiation with the vampires, right? So the vampires and the witches were kind of all kind of together.
Right.
Um, but then there was kind of, I guess, a shift, you can say, that compelled the vampires to seek their own community and to really come out um, into the public front rather than being more secretive about their identity.
Right.
Um, um, and that's something that we've always tried to encourage. You don't have to be the same. You can be different. You can be unusual. You can manifest yourself with your own creative um, persona,
Mhm.
and your own expression of what spirituality is or lack thereof, right? Not all vampires are spiritual individuals, but those that are welcome to express themselves in the way that they see fit. And so I felt, and I've been hosting creative events since, I guess you can say since the 80s. And I always feel that there is an internal calling for me to create these spaces where individuals can express themselves in a variety of ways. Sometimes I feel like I'm the hollow bone, so to speak.
Mm. Yes. And it's well, I can tell you have done really well with Iron Garden. So
Well, Iron Garden had an earlier incarnation in the 90s,
mhm.
which I was one of the founders of that particular Iron Garden back then.
Mhm.
Similar purpose, similar purpose. But then I left. I travel quite a bit, and I like to explore the world.
Mhm.
And I left for quite a few years. When I returned, I realized that there was no more Iron Garden, and I was very disappointed. And so in 2014, with the blessing of the original founders, I established the second incarnation of the Court of the Iron Garden.
Nice.
And we did it at the same venue, QXT's.
Mm-hmm.
And we have been, now we're going to be celebrating at the end of January. We will be celebrating our 8th anniversary. So 8 years of community service. And we are very proud and delighted.
You should be. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And how did you make this journey from prior to being involved in the 80s to this incredible immersion that you have and this incredible persona that you have now?
That is a very good question, and perhaps something worthy of writing a book about.
I was actually, wondering when that was going to happen, because I'm sure your journey is extremely interesting. But what can you share with us about how you?
Yes, I was very fortunate. So I'm European born. I was born in the country of Portugal, which is adjacent to Spain at the very edge of southwestern Europe. And I was very fortunate to have godparents who shared an interest in the esoteric traditions.
Okay.
At the time, my country was under a fascist regime where such topics were punishable by law. So we really weren't allowed to explore witchcraft or any esoteric topics. It was a Christian country, and the purpose, our country had essentially 3 things. And if you did not follow into one of those 3 verdants, then you were pretty much an outcast and punishable by law. Worship of God, worship of your parents, and a worship of the government. Right? So anything other was considered criminal. And many individuals were caught with illicit, prohibited, banned books, and they were thrown in jail. So this is the kind of mindset that I grew up with. So as you can imagine, anything that comes into, the banning of books or that interferes with our freedoms and our liberties, I'm very much against. My godparents were rebels, and they had an extensive library on all sorts of things, including these forbidden subjects. And I, of course, found those books as a child, and I loved it. Everything from natural healing to astrology to, the unseen realms, etc. So that was my first interest. But I certainly did not consider myself a vampire until I would have to say maybe 97. And, many individuals had approached me and told me that, oh, you're a vampire. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm perhaps a witch, but certainly not a vampire. So there was quite a time of denial. It was like, I understand vampirism. Maybe I even can practice some forms of vampirism. I can utilize blood in my magical working and interpersonal energy in my magical work. However, I'm not a vampire per se. But I would have to say that in 97, things changed dramatically for me. I had a bit of an awakening, and that inspired me to realize that there was something beyond that. And there had always been, and I was just not privy to it.
Okay. Sounds like a very interesting personal experience, which is very satisfying to hear that you had a calling and
Yes.
you finally accepted the calling.
Yes. And it's very difficult, because one thing is being a witch. A witch is almost like being a scientist of sorts, right? You learn, you experiment, you put it to work, you see it unfold, right? It all
Right.
makes sense. And it is now more socially acceptable to express yourself as a witch, right?
Correct. Correct.
But a vampire, come on, that's pushing the edges of reality.
Well, and
Well, I'm not sure if it's pushing the edges of reality. I think it's perhaps pushing the social mores that are dogmatically oppressive. Might be a better way to, for me, express that. Because there certainly is a root in um, going back to the other races that have been to this planet and left their mark on this planet. Would that be fair to say?
Absolutely.
So, perhaps you're finding more of a kinship to there, um, and those races are just as valid as other races that have been here. And I think that going forward, it's important to understand the influence of beings that are not from this planet, and how they are moving forces in this planet for positive and evolution, as opposed to forces that are of this planet that are not perhaps as positive, and more self-serving.
I completely concur with what you're saying. What is interesting about the vampire is that we don't subscribe to one exclusive origin story, right? So if you have 10 different vampires, 10 of them may have a very different perspective on what the origins of our race may be. And you are almost alluding to aliens, and that is definitely a possibility. Many vampires feel that our origins come from the Anunnaki. Others may feel that, in fact, we are from the angels, from the fallen angels, from the Nephilim. While others may even go into we are the progeny of Lilith, Adam's first woman, or perhaps even Cain. And from there's a variety of other permutations, including Lazarus, including the bloodline of Jesus even. Some individuals feel that their bloodline is from Countess Saint Germain or Countess Bathory or even Vlad Tepes. And some may even feel that their connection comes from Egypt, from the goddess Sekhmet, or from Osiris and Isis, and the whole process of Septepi. So there's a variety of different possibilities of where we have originated. But nothing is proven except in our hearts, right? So each one of us is free to accept and to embrace the origin story that best resonates with their identity and their purpose.
Well,
Yeah, I like how you're stating this and you're bringing this to everyone's attention that we, no matter what you resonate with, doesn't mean that you only have one origin. It really doesn't. You know, a lot of people say, "Oh, you're a witch. You come from here. You do from here. You follow this line. You follow." No, you. It's what resonates with the person.
Right. And
Because
there is a validity to bloodlines, and I don't discount that. However, I really feel that spirit is thicker than blood.
hmm very true. I agree with you on that one. I agree with you on that one.
well, I mean, we understand and accept the two of us that we're all part of the same. That there is a collective consciousness that we all have a piece of. And so what we promote is coexistence
Mhm.
and understanding and acceptance of that, and getting back to the concept of banning books and trying to suppress and oppress. That is not part of what we feel is necessary for that collective consciousness and coexistence.
Right. And even I came from Cuba. I was born in Cuba, so I
You
know.
understand.
Oh, I understand completely. My mother was a generational witch, and I would have to, when would say to her, "Oh, I see Uncle so and so, and he's giving me this message," or "I feel this is going to happen," or whatever. She would come and say, "Tell me, not your father. Your father doesn't understand these things yet."
Right.
It wasn't until much later in his life that he opened up, he evolved, and realized that we were all one, and there were different dimensions, different existence at the same time, different ways of being without having one better than the other one.
Of course. And
And
that also teaches you a little bit of discretion. See,
yes.
I'm a fan of discretion, and I think it's a healthy practice. I think there's a lot of merit and courage and bravery that's involved with, coming out of the coffin, so to speak, and telling the world, yes, I'm a vampire, right? But at the same time, I always advise discretion. And that is why my scene name, my night side name, if you will, my pen name is Madam X,
Mhm.
right? It is a name that I adopted back in the 90s as I became more public about my personal identity.
Right.
And I think that's important because we all have dayside lives, responsibilities, and connections that don't necessarily need to be privy to the type of work that we do on a spiritual and even community level.
Very
Now, vampires are by nature solitaire, right? And perhaps that's one of the reasons for it. You kind of have to step back and step away from people because of who we are and how we are perceived as these dangerous individuals.
Mhm.
However, there comes a time, and for at least some of us like myself, that we are drawn to bring community together. And if we are, then we have to be very cautious in how that's going to affect our career and our other interpersonal relationships and our life as we have built it. So discretion is one of the things that is right up there.
Definitely.
Today you can say, "Oh, I'm a witch." People say, "Oh, you're Wiccan." Wiccan is a religion, right? But there is no vampire religion per se, at least not yet, right?
Mhm.
So it is not something that we can easily explain. And because of the different permutations of what vampirism is and what a vampire can be, it becomes complicated to explain that to, our boss in in global finance or something like that, right?
Yes. Well, I was a paralegal, so it was extremely hard for me too. Because back then, it isn't as widespread as it is now. But even then, even now, you still have states that you have, and areas you have to be very careful.
Of course.
And so I agree with you. Sometimes, discretion is the best avenue.
Absolutely.
And not all witches identify as attached to Wicca.
Right.
There are
Correct, of
Right.
course.
other permutations, other spiritualities, and then there are also solitaire witches as well. So, the idea of dangerous, people can be dangerous through ignorance. I feel more so than through education and understanding. So that's been my experience anyway.
I agree. I agree exactly with what you're saying. I think fear is a very dangerous thing, both for yourself and for those that you're afraid of, because it can lead to violence, really.
Mhm.
And
But at the same time, I would also say that a little knowledge is a dangerous thing,
Mm,
right? So I always advocate mentorship.
mm.
And sometimes, we feel, oh, you know it all, or you can learn it by yourself, or you're fend for yourself, etc. But mentorship is very important. Education is very important, whether you're a witch or a vampire or an elf, fae, therian, right?
Yes.
I think that mentorship is very important. And that's kind of what I do with my International Coven, House of the Dreaming, is that we offer mentorship.
Nice.
And with the Iron Garden, similarly, I mean, individuals, seekers, attend the Iron Garden looking for teachers, looking for mentors. Where can I go to learn more about crystals? Where can I go to learn more about angelics? Where can I go to learn more about vampires? And what are these Therian people, right?
Right.
So when we have different topics, we expose our membership and our guests to different teachers who can potentially become their mentors.
Very good.
and bloodlines as well. I believe you've got connections to Spain. So
I got connections to Spain. I have connection to Portugal, and I have connection to Romania.
Oh, fantastic. Have you
Yes.
been to Romania in this lifetime?
No, not in this lifetime.
Oh, it's fabulous. I have. Of course, I have. Yes, it was wonderful. I spent some time in Romania, and my only regret is that I did not speak Romanian better.
Mm.
Um, I am quite a bit of a polyglot, and I do very well with the Romance languages. I speak a few of them, which really means I can misspell in several languages. Um, and Romanian seemed so close, so close, and yet I had such a hard time understanding it. I could probably read a good amount of it,
Right.
but expressing myself and understanding, it was difficult. So that was my only regret when I was in Romania. But I really enjoyed the culture, the architecture, the art, the people. Very, very warm. Very. I felt like I was part of them,
Right.
and it was just fantastic. And of course, the wine, Romanian wine, and of course, the history, the lore. It was a fantastic experience. I would definitely like to go back.
That's one trip I would like to take at some point.
Of course,
Hopefully,
particularly if
hopefully,
you have roots there, you
yes.
definitely should.
Hopefully in this lifetime, but if
Terrific.
not, the next one. It's okay.
I'm
Um,
generally in Europe during the summer. So if you're ever compelled to
mhm.
come to Europe during the summer, let me know and we'll do a little jaunt over to Romania.
Okay, perfect. Loved it. Thank you. Um, so tell us about the coven. Tell us a
House of
little
the
more.
Dreaming.
Yes.
Um, we established House of the Dreaming in the year 2000. And we currently have members not just in the United States, but also in Europe. Our two most recent members are in New Jersey, but we have members in Virginia, in Texas, in Florida, in Idaho, Georgia. We have members in the UK, in Germany, um, and we also have some individuals that are affiliated with the house. They're not full members per se, but they're affiliated with the house in Portugal, in Greece, etc. So while we're a tight-knit group,
Mhm.
we're about 12 at this point. The house itself is a larger. It's comprised of other individuals that are either honorary members or they're black swans, what we consider black swans. Part of our silver circle of wards and dedicants and helpers.
Mhm.
So.
Sounds wonderful.
It's only made possible because of the internet, right? Because no matter where you are, it brings you closer. And we are a collective of individuals that believe in dreams, and not just the dreams of that you have at night when you go to sleep,
Mhm.
but also manifesting our dreams, our aspirations. And we come together to learn about the universe, about ourselves, and how we can reach those dreams by utilizing our gifts, whether we are vampires, witches, Therian, otherkin, etc., towards building our day side, towards building our where we want to be and what we want to do with our life. So we
Very
try to make those dreams a reality, and that's why we have come together.
Well, my perspective, I have a fairly extensive love affair with being a mental health advocate
Mm-hmm.
and helping people that are trying to find their footing in mental health. But for myself, the challenge I had in my education in psychology is that every school of psychology has its concept of what mental health is. And they try to judge wellness by a fairly rigid system of, what sanity is. And I found my base in coaching, which is my school of coaching has a foundation. And as long as you're not going to harm yourself or anyone else, how can we forward the agenda as you resonate with it? And so it doesn't have that concept of, well, you have to do this to be sane. And that really resonated more with what I was experiencing as a coach and as an advocate, because a lot of the people that I wound up working with and helping were professionals who would come to me because they had no one to go to if they felt they needed support. And so it seems that you're on a similar journey. Does that sound right to you?
Yes. I mean, being a spiritual counselor, it sort of implies that in a sense, right?
Mhm.
Being a teacher sort of implies that. So something I only take a student if they have their priorities in place, right?
Mhm.
So it's important for them to be functional in society and be functional with themselves before we can delve into the occult sciences, right? Um, so, and that can be difficult, particularly if you're going through a cathartic awakening or something of the sort. So it's very delicate. It's more delicate, particularly when you're saying, "Oh, I don't know. I think I'm a vampire, right? What do I do?" Right? Then if you're saying, "Oh, I'm experiencing grief," or I'm lost in life and I can't find meaning or a path, right?
Right.
So the moment that you say vampire, oh my God, I think I'm a vampire. I think I'm losing it, right? Um, and exactly what you were referring to is how that gauge of sanity ebbs and flows and changes over time. What is accepted today certainly was not accepted in the 70s. And what is accepted as sanity today in the United States may not be accepted in another country as sanity, right? So I think that that's something that always kinds of ebbs and flows. Um, but the true gauge, in my perspective, is if you can, and everyone has a little bit off, right? No one is perfect. And if you were, there's something wrong with you. But I think that if you are able to live in our society, then you're doing okay. If you're able to make ends meet, if you can hold a job or a source of income, if you can find happiness, right? Whether it's by yourself or with family. I think those are the gauges, right? You have to be able to be um, um, a cohesive part of society in some way and find joy through it. And I think that if you can't, then you need help, right? And wherever that help comes from, you need to acquire it, right? In a positive way, something that's going to be uplifting to you and to those around you. And of course, to you financially without being a detriment, and to you emotionally. So I think that that balance between finances and emotion kind of defines our sanity, stability, right? And everything else kind of like goes out in the wash. I mean, is being a vampire or being a witch or being a Therian, is that going to be empowering for you? If it is, then kudos. That's great. If it's not, if you're going to be a victim because of it, this is not working for you.
Right.
This should be about personal empowerment of yourself and those around you. You should be able to build with this, not feel at a loss.
So I think that's an important distinction, because a lot of people feel that to be a victor, there has to be a victim, and I don't know that that's necessarily accurate. What do you think about that?
That's a good question. I'm going to say no. I don't necessarily feel that way. But one man's trash is another man's treasure, right? So it's all what you do with it. And I think it's important that we find pleasure and empowerment with whatever it is that we do and whatever it is that we do in life and the choices that we make.
Well, it appears to me that society is at this point attempting to move in a direction where one person has to succeed at the expense of another. And I think that going back to the misunderstandings of every spiritual practice, that's a concern that people have when they hear the concept of being a vampire. And I don't know that that's necessarily important to your practice.
Right, because vampires are equated with being predators.
Exactly.
Right. So there is that kind of, oh, if you're a vampire, you're going to feed on me, you're going to steal my energy, you are going to use me. And that's what makes vampires dangerous. Now, I would love to say that that's not true. But unfortunately, you will find predators everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And not just in the vampire community. You'll find them in the bowling league. Right? So you don't necessarily have to be night kind to be a dangerous predator. Now, just like most witches, just don't piss us off and you'll be fine. Right?
And I think that's a key. You know,
Right.
you get what you give. And if the bottom line intent is to do harm, then you're pretty much inviting yourself to be harmed. And if your intent is coexistence, then I don't see you as interfering with that. We've been in your presence and we've come out of it unharmed.
Oh, you got lucky.
Because we didn't come with the intent of creating harm.
Well, I'm sure that there's many situations where we approach them benevolently and with an open hand, and we walk out of it with shit smeared on our face. So this does happen, right? Sometimes it doesn't matter. We can be all altruistic and all benevolent, and we can invite the person to feed from our hand, and then they will just bite it off, right? I'm sure that this has happened to many of us. So I don't necessarily agree that what you put out there is what you walk away with. Sometimes you get surprises, right? But I do think that it's all important. That I think that you need to approach community. For instance, I approach community not just as what am I going to get out of it, but I approach community as how can I build? How can I contribute? And if you go on my Facebook page, you'll see that I said I'm a collector of souls. And in essence, I am, because I'm always hosting events or being part of something. And I always want to bring others into it, to bring others into the fold so that they can exhibit their art and they can vend their wares and they can share with us their wisdom or their information, you know. So I like to build community, not just with me, but with others around me and finding those people. And that's how you and I found each other, was that I was looking for a teacher. I was looking for someone who could present and communicate and bring people together as well. So that's what I do. Is that what everyone does? No, not really, right? Most people are just interested in what can I get out of it, right? And that too, there's benevolence in that too, right? You know, but there you go. We're all different in a core. But sometimes when you put out good vibes and all good intentions, we don't necessarily get all good vibes and all good intentions back, because people are jealous and people are human, you know?
Well, I think
silly, right?
I think the idea is that if you come with intent to harm, then you have to be prepared to be harmed. If you don't come with intent to harm, and particularly in the paranormal, then you just have to make sure that people understand that you're not going to accept being harmed. And I think that's fair.
Yes, that is fair. The universe is not fair.
No.
Fairness is a human concept. It is not what the world is driven by. It is not the source. The source says nothing about fairness.
Well, fairness is
what you do with what you get,
right,
is how you prove your mettle, regardless if it is fair or unfair, regardless if you are dealing with abundance or otherwise. It is how you play your cards. You must be wise. And that is how you prove your mettle. And sometimes I believe that the individuals who approach with malice get away with it. So be prepared for individuals to be about, and I'm not just referring to the vampire community. Goodness, I've worked in corporate finance. But individuals will come into our path with malicious intent. And a good part of those individuals are only successful because they destroy others around them. They have nothing of value except they offer destruction. And sometimes, good things come from ruined walls. It makes space for you to build better and stronger. So these individuals can also be catalysts of change. So, the world is not all hunky-dory with, fluffy bunnies and pretty flowers. There's ice storms and thistles and sharp, pointy things, right? And volcanoes and earthquakes and cyclones and floods, right? Even too much of a good thing can be a bad thing.
Very true. Very true. So people can find you on Facebook.
Yes.
Okay, just by looking up Madam X.
That's correct. And I'm Madam with an E, X, dot dreaming, if you want to type it all out.
Okay. And that's where they can find your events, right?
Absolutely. We also have a website for the Iron Garden, and that's essentially irongarden.org. My Coven, House of the Dreaming, has a website as well. That's houseofthedreaming.net. So we are online.
And I appreciate the fact that you mentioned that you do the events with charities in place.
Absolutely.
Because everybody thinks that you do this and it's just for you. No,
right, not at all. In fact, the Iron Garden, we do not charge for attending the Iron Garden. The venue does have door admission, and sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 20, depending. It has been 10 it really depends on the event, but generally it's $10 at the door. But that money does not come to the Iron Garden. That money goes directly to the venue. And we are a volunteer-run organization. No one gets paid. And we offer the vending opportunities, exhibiting opportunities, teaching opportunities, etc., for free. We don't charge our merchants. Okay, so this is not about money. This is about building community.
Exactly.
And the wonderful thing about our event, you can really essentially call it a pagan event because we do have pagan ceremony, right? So the wonderful thing about our quote unquote pagan event is that we have been consistent over the past 8 years, which is a huge big deal to say that we offer monthly events for the past 8 years. We survived the plague, the pandemic, correct? And we are still here 8 years into it. And our attendance fluctuates between 50 and 70 individuals. So this is not a group of 6 people.
Right.
Our membership, our citizens, the citizens of our court are about 30, 35, right? But attendees per month, we have between 50 and 70, which I think it's really quite wonderful.
It is.
And they're not all women, right? Like most pagan events, you know, we go to pagan events and it's like, you know, six lasses and maybe two lads, right? So we have a very good mixture of genders, and we also have a very good mixture of age groups.
Yes.
You have to be 21 to attend. We are at a nightclub, so it's a 21 and over policy. But we go well into the 70s. Our attendance goes well into the 70s. So a very diverse attendance, very diverse membership.
Yes, and I've experienced that. We have definitely. So I can vouch for that for sure. Well, thank you. We're almost done. Is there any last words that you would like to?
Sure. I would like to talk about some of the projects that I'm doing right now, aside from House of the Dreaming and the Iron Garden. I've been involved with many creative projects, including a movie. It's called Blood and Lust. It's an exciting vampire film short. And I've been an associate producer, a consultant, an assistant director, and I also have a couple of cameos. So fun, a lot of fun. The name of the movie is, again, Blood and Lust, and it should be coming out shortly. So definitely stay tuned for it. I'm going to be involved in 2 upcoming things. One of them is the Undead of Winter Ball in Milton, Pennsylvania. And this is on Saturday, February 11th. It's going to be a wonderful weekend. It starts on Friday with an arts festival. It's a dark arts and oddities festival that runs the course of 2 days. There's going to be a vampire dance party on Friday night. And then on Saturday, we are having the Undead of Winter Vampire Masquerade, where I will be doing a blessing of the feast. We're going to be setting up for this lavish banquet. And at the very end of the night, I will be offering a sanguine mass. So I do hope that individuals come and attend and join in. Dress with your vampire best. Historical vampires are welcome, of course. And that should be a lot of fun. That's also my birthday weekend, so I'm very, very excited about it.
Happy birthday.
And this is going to be at the Shoe Factory. So you've probably heard of the place. It's beautiful.
Yes.
Beautiful location. I'm also going to be offering at least one presentation on the topic of modern day living vampires at a New Jersey event called the Dark Force Fest. It's a 3-day dark alternative music and culture festival. It's in Parsippany, New Jersey, and it's on March 31st through the April 2nd, I believe.
Okay.
So if you like alternative music and culture, that's the place for you to go. It's fantastic. It's a fantastic event.
It sounds like another wonderful weekend there.
And before all of that, we are celebrating the 8th year anniversary of the Iron Garden on January 27th at QXT's.
Mhm.
So that will be fun. And those are the 3 things I have upcoming.
In Newark.
In Newark.
In Newark.
That's correct. QXT's is in Newark, New Jersey, right by the Prudential Center.
Yes.
Correct.
Well, we'd like to thank you. It was great having you here. Very nice that you brought a different perspective. And it shows people that we're all basically the same and we're just striving to be our better self.
And to help others around us as well.
Exactly. Now, next week we have Chip Reithenthal. He is an author, a big personality in the paranormal. He reads tarot. And so we're looking forward to that. That will be next Wednesday, the 28th, at 9 p.m. So Eastern. So see you there. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye. Thank you, Madam X.
Thank you, Glenda. Have a wonderful evening.
You as well.
Look forward to seeing you in the future.
Likewise.